3:24 a.m. The Strait of Hormuz shatters into a full-blown red alert as the Aegis radar aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln sweeps the ink-black waters and sky. One red blip appears, then a second, a third, and suddenly a fourth. In the next heartbeat, the screen erupts into a savage storm of 47 inbound targets, all of them shredding across the waves at Mach 0.9. From just 200 meters out, a deadly swarm of drones and cruise missiles screams straight toward the heart of the United States Navy. The engagement window has collapsed to 94 seconds. A billion-dollar floating fortress and thousands of American sailors now stand on the razor's edge of history. Either the curtain of steel rises right now, or the Lincoln becomes nothing more than a burning heap of scrap metal on the ocean floor. At the world's most volatile energy choke point, the cards are on the table, and Iran's opening gambit has just been played with terrifying precision. This swarm attack is no isolated incident. It is the direct, ferocious escalation born from Iran's stunning recent strikes against Israel, a bold and calculated retaliation that shook the Middle East to its core after the Trump administration delivered its own punishing blow to critical infrastructure bridges feeding enemy supply lines. Tehran has proven once again that it will not be cowed. Its proxy forces, armed with ingenuity forged in the fires of necessity, are now daring to challenge the mightiest navy on Earth, turning the Strait of Hormuz into a cauldron of pure hatred and high-tech vengeance. For 4 brutal weeks, Iranian forces and their Houthi allies have tightened a tactical noose around this narrow waterway threatening to choke off 20% of the planet's oil supply. While American paratroopers and special forces raced to secure coastlines, the Abraham Lincoln sat anchored at the epicenter of a global economic powder keg. Every single hour, 840,000 barrels of black gold flow through this strait. If even one of those incoming ghosts finds its mark, gas prices in Los Angeles will not simply rise. They will double before sunrise. The billion-dollar carrier could end its proud mission as twisted wreckage resting silently on the seabed. Yet the true nightmare is not merely the sheer number of threats. It is the twisted, hateful creativity behind them. For 3 long months, Houthi rebels, backed by Iranian know-how and fury, have been preparing a poor man's apocalypse in the shadows. Instead of billion-dollar stealth bombers, they have weaponized cheap commercial DJI drones, each one transformed into a suicide assassin carrying a 50-kilogram warhead. This is digital jailbreak warfare at its most vicious, 328 modified drones and cruise missiles launched in a coordinated blitz that pits low-cost AI against a $13 billion American giant. The enemy is betting everything that this disposable swarm can overwhelm the world's most advanced integrated defense system, proving that in the new age of conflict, a smart hack can be every bit as lethal as a cruise missile. 3:28 a.m. The drones route themselves like hackers cracking a cheap Android phone using low-cost artificial intelligence to bypass encrypted GPS locks. It is 1,000 desperate hacks squaring off against American technological supremacy, and the hatred fueling every circuit is unmistakable. The attackers want the Lincoln gone, the strait closed, and the global economy brought to its knees in one savage blow. 3:30 a.m. The Aegis tactical display, normally a masterpiece of surgical precision, suddenly dissolves into a chaotic smear of flickering red icons. The Houthi drones have executed their first diabolical maneuver, hugging the massive steel hulls of 300-meter oil tankers and bleeding their radar signatures into those floating islands of steel. Lethal threats and neutral merchant vessels merge into one indistinguishable mass of pixels. The commander's hand freezes above the fire control console. A single missile striking a neutral tanker would ignite a political firestorm that could bury the entire region in diplomatic graves. GPS spoofing pulses hammer the fleet's sensors, spawning hundreds of ghost targets for every real drone. It is a digital hall of mirrors, hurtling forward at Mach 0.9, forcing the United States Navy to play a high-stakes game of life and death, while the clock bleeds away precious seconds. high above the E. 2D Hawkeye dives sharply from its overhead station, its massive radar dome slaving every sensor across the fleet into one purified data stream through Link 16. The deception begins to crack. At the perimeter, F-35C. Lightning IIs bank hard their distributed aperture systems, ignoring radar noise and locking onto the microscopic infrared glow of drone engines. These thermal signatures never lie. Data pulses race back to the Lincoln. The Aegis artificial intelligence scrubs the battlefield in nanoseconds, stripping away digital ghosts one by one like a hot knife slicing through wax. 47 cold lethal threats stand illuminated against the black ocean backdrop. 3:32 a.m. The Lincoln's port side explodes in a deafening roar of steam and fire. Two FA-18 Super Hornets are catapulted violently into the night just 90 seconds after the initial alarm. Below them, escorting destroyers rip open their vertical launch cells in synchronized blasts. RIM-162. Sea Sparrow missiles scream skyward rocket motors, painting the horizon in streaks of fire for miles around. It is a systematic harvest of death. Advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles shred the lead wave, turning $8,000 rooted Android drones into showers of plastic and burning fuel. 29 targets vanish from existence in heartbeats. The sky becomes a graveyard where cheap technology meets American video-level processing power. Yet the victory is bitterly short-lived. 3:35 a.m. An ear-piercing electronic shriek rips through every headset in the Combat Direction Center. The Aegis display, the fleet's $12 billion nervous system, does not merely flicker. It explodes into a solid wall of white static. High-powered shore-based Iranian emitters have just burned out every frequency band in a ferocious electronic ambush. The remaining 18 targets, heavy cruise missiles and second-generation suicide drones, shriek forward at 700 miles per hour and vanish into thin air. The 100,000-ton Lincoln is suddenly swinging blind in a dark room filled with knives. Houthi emitters scream across every frequency like jet engines roaring inside a silent library, drowning out all radar scanning efforts and leaving even the most modern sensors disoriented and helpless. 3:37 a.m. In the middle of that electronic hell, the EA-18G Growler, America's ultimate electronic predator, banks into a savage high G turn. The pilot's vision tunnels as his flight suit inflates under crushing pressure. Next-generation jammer pods under the wings glow with invisible fury. A concentrated, devastating counterattack sweeps straight at the shore emitters. The impact is instantaneous. The electronic screaming falls deathly silent. It is as if the Growler has slammed noise-canceling headphones over the entire fleet, punching a hole of pure silence through the wall of interference, and restoring digital vision just as the targets slam into the inner defense perimeter. Reaction time shrinks to milliseconds. Sensor fusion seizes control. Even while the main radar struggles to recalibrate, the F-35Cs transmit an unjammable 8K infrared stream directly into pilots' helmets. The battlefield is no longer a flickering screen. It is a high-definition destruction zone. While Houthi operators stare at screens flashing connection errors, the United States Navy watches them in crystal-clear Netflix quality. Every target is marked in glowing red. Flight paths are predicted by the Lincoln's silicon brain with terrifying accuracy. The enemy is plunged into darkness, but for the carrier, the night has never been clearer. 18 targets are locked. The order to fire is now a mere formality. Yet while the sky burns, a quieter, even deadlier threat creeps through the shallow, murky waters below. 2 Ghadir-class submarines, supplied by Iran and stripped of all identifying marks, glide silently from the ocean floor. They are moving ghosts, exploiting the acoustic shadows of underwater mountain ranges, targeting the fleet's Achilles heel, while the world stares upward. They move with extreme slowness to avoid bubbles hiding within layers of silt and sand banking on the chaos above to mask their approach. They believe they are the only predators in these depths. 3:40 a.m. At 30 meters down, a Virginia-class attack submarine has been lying in wait for 48 hours, silent as a tomb. Inside the American vessel, the sonar room pulses with suffocating concentration, illuminated only by high-frequency sensor returns. The Iranian diesel-electric engines screech like battered motorcycles in the empty night. To the Virginia's advanced sonar arrays, the enemy might as well have been screaming through a megaphone. The American submarine, the ultimate silent predator operating with the smoothness of an Apple ecosystem, maps every mechanical pulse through the seabed mud. Target locked. Before a single air bubble can rise, the Virginia delivers a brutal surgical strike. The Gadir submarines never even glimpse their hunter. The underwater threat is neutralized in complete silence, proving that while the Houthis play with noisy toys, the United States Navy moves like a Tesla-plaid, deadly electrified and utterly inaudible. 3:42 a.m. The sky is nearly clear, but the nightmare refuses to end. The final 6 targets, the fastest and most advanced, suddenly drop altitude and vanish from long-range radar. They race sea-skimming at Mach 0.9, gliding over the waves to hide within water turbulence and saltwater spray. The Aegis system screams its final warning. Outer Ring destroyers struggle as lingering jamming causes the last salvo of ESSM missiles to lose lock-on and plunge harmlessly into the sea. A suicide drone pierces the final defensive barrier, hurtling straight toward the Lincoln's command tower. Target closing fast. Prepare for impact. The shrill alarm blares across every deck, signaling that all tactical options have been exhausted. Inside the Combat Information Center, lights flicker as power is diverted entirely to internal defense systems. Crew members drop flat onto the steel deck, clinging to anything bolted down. This is the point of no return. At less than 1.5 kilometers, the Phalanx CIWS system, affectionately known as R2D2, seizes absolute control. The automatic gun mount whips its 20mm Vulcan barrel toward the horizon. The sound is like a giant chainsaw tearing through space at 4,500 rounds per minute. A solid wall of tungsten bullets shatters the atmosphere. The first 5 targets vaporize instantly. The final drone is struck when it is already terrifyingly close. Inertia carries the shattered wreckage forward through the wall of fire. The Phalanx tears it apart just 150 meters from the ship's side. The explosion blooms into a blazing orange-black sun. The shockwave slams into the Lincoln like a steel fist, dragging a wall of seawater and fiery debris across the launch deck. A red-hot engine fragment screams through the air and embeds itself in the steel hull of an F-35C awaiting refueling. Thick black smoke engulfs the bridge. Foam from the waves coats the fire control radars. The aircraft carrier shakes violently, yet its heart keeps beating. 100% of targets destroyed. The entire engagement lasted exactly 15 minutes. The Houthis had hoped for a close-range cinematic strike, but they forgot that the Phalanx fires faster than an ex-lover turning on you. 4,500 rounds per minute is not shooting. It is clearing debris with a steel laser. 3:55 a.m. Black smoke still clings to the hull. On the flight deck, firefighters spray white foam onto the charred wreckage of the damaged F-35C. Inside the Combat Direction Center, there is no time for panic or rest. The tactical map flips from defensive green to the fiery red of counter-strike orders. 3:56 a.m., exactly 11 minutes after the final CIWS burst, the United States Navy unleashes annihilation. Not only from the Lincoln, but from every escorting Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, the full fury erupts in unison. Dozens of Tomahawk missiles pierce the early morning fog, illuminating the sea in a symphony of retribution. Above the clouds, P-8 Poseidon aircraft and military satellites pinpoint the exact coordinates of the jamming stations that tried to blind the fleet. This is brain surgery with explosives. Ground-penetrating missiles level the underground command center and AI drone storage facilities. Through satellite feeds, the Combat Direction Center watches 3 months of enemy preparation vanish in fireballs. The rebels lose every piece of equipment and infrastructure they built. For the United States, the cost is merely a high-intensity combat evolution. The 15-minute battle has safeguarded the flow of 840,000 barrels of oil per hour to the world. American technological superiority has once again triumphed over haphazardly modified weapons born of hatred and desperation. The Strait of Hormuz remains open not by luck, but by unshakable silicon-powered might. In the heat of that final desperate moment, when the last drone clawed its way through the sky toward the Lincoln's Tower, what do you believe truly saved the ship? Was it the relentless automation of the Phalanx CIWS, or the ice-cold composure of the operators who trusted the system? When death was only seconds away, if you had been standing in that command center, heart-pounding alarms screaming, would you have dared to let the automatic firing system take over when the target was just a few hundred meters out? Right now, while the smoke is still rising and the counter-strike missiles are still flying, drop your answer in the comments. Team Phalanx or Team ESSM? Which system would you trust with your life when the sky is burning and the ocean itself seems to rise up in rage? The battle may be over, but the war for the Strait of Hormuz is far from finished. Iran has shown the world it can strike hard and strike smart, and the United States Navy has answered with overwhelming force. The global economy still flows, the oil still moves, and the thin line between life and death remains drawn at 4,500 rounds per minute. This is the new face of naval warfare, raw, personal, and unforgiving. Click subscribe right now. Do not miss a single moment of this historic journey. Your time is precious, and we promise you analyses as sharp as reality itself. Stay vigilant, stay informed. We will see you in the very next video. Disclaimer. This video contains content created or assisted in whole or in part by artificial intelligence. The material is intended solely for simulation, illustration, and entertainment purposes. It does not represent real-world events, political or military advice, or verified information. Certain elements may be fictional, dramatized, or inaccurate. Viewers should not rely on this video as a credible source of information or as a basis for real-world decision-making.